On May 3, 2026, on the Atchafalaya Delta, Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries certified a 175-pound fish that 3 teenagers pulled out of water shallow enough to stand in. A calm bayou at sunset is the safest looking water in America. Flat, warm, waist deep, the same slough your family has fished for 3 generations. That calm is the problem, because down here the water doesn't hide things with depth, it hides them with color. By the time we reach number 1, you may never wade one again. 9. Monster fish, ranked not by size but by how little water each one needs to vanish in, how shallow it can be and how close you can be, while something longer than you sits there unseen. We start with the one you've already seen and dismissed as a stick. Louisiana holds 4 of the 5 gar species in the United States, and the longnose is the one suspended in the top few inches of every bayou in the state. Long, thin, olive, with a snout like a pair of needle-nose pliers, so motionless that people pull right past it. It reaches past 6 feet. So how does a 6-foot fish live in water you can see the bottom of? Because it isn't hiding in the water, it's hiding in the light. Tannic stain kills visibility at about 18 inches, and the gar simply stays under that line. Everything else about it is built for the same place. Its scales aren't scales at all. They're ganoid plates, hard, interlocking, enamel-surfaced, fitted like chainmail with no gaps between them. And its swim bladder connects to its throat and functions as a lung, which is why gar thrive through August in the hot, oxygen-dead backwater where the shad die off by the thousand and almost nothing else can hold on. When the bayou goes stagnant, the gar is at the surface, breathing air unbothered. It isn't even confined to fresh water. Longnose gar run down into the brackish coastal marsh and feed there on menhaden, croaker, and spot, the same species in the swamp behind the camp and out in the salt. Number 9 on our criterion is the gentle version of the problem. An armored, air-breathing 6-foot predator that needs no depth whatsoever. Holding still in water, you can see the bottom of everywhere except the 18 inches it happens to occupy. Now under the surface and into the structure where the bayou keeps its ambush hunters. The flathead is not the catfish of the bait bucket. It doesn't scavenge like the others. It takes live prey, and it takes it from cover, sitting inside a log jam under a cut bank, deep in a drowned brush pile, completely still, until something swims near enough. Then a mouth opens wide enough to inhale a fish nearly its own size. How big does that get in Louisiana? The state record came out of Wax Lake in the lower Atchafalaya system in July of 2007. Roland Lasagna's fish weighed 95 pounds. One animal, as heavy as a grown man, that spent its entire life packed into the kind of submerged timber people tie off to, swim beside, and run trot lines through without a second thought. And that's the flathead's claim on shallow water. It's a geographic claim, not a depth one. It isn't out in the channel where you'd expect something that heavy. It's in the exact structure people are drawn to. The shady bank, the fallen cypress, the cool, dark pocket under the dock where kids jump in to get out of the sun. So the denial inverts. You tell yourself the big ones are out in the middle, in the deep water, far from you. The flathead is never in the middle. It's 10 feet off the bank, in the dark, holding still, which is precisely the reason it got that large. Number 8. Number 7 is the strangest looking animal in Louisiana freshwater, and it moves through the bayou like nothing else on the continent. Picture it. A skeleton made almost entirely of cartilage, and a long flat blade of a snout extending 1/3 of the body length out in front. In Louisiana, the paddlefish reaches 5 feet. Its lineage runs back well over 100 million years, and its only relative on Earth, the Chinese paddlefish, has been declared extinct. This is the last one of its kind swimming anywhere, and it is harmless in the most unsettling way possible. It's a filter feeder. It cruises with its mouth held wide, straining plankton, sensing food through tens of thousands of receptors covering that paddle because the water it lives in is far too dark for eyes to be worth anything. It doesn't hunt. It never had to. How thin is the margin holding it here? Louisiana caps possession at 2 per person per day, and the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries restocks the population with more than 50,000 10-inch fingerlings every single year to keep the numbers from sliding. They're in the Atchafalaya, the Mississippi, the Red, the Ouachita, the Pearl, and the Pontchartrain basins, which is to say, most of this state. Number 7 on our criterion because the paddlefish doesn't tolerate the murk. It requires it. A 5-foot living fossil navigating by electric sense through water so opaque that vision is useless. In basins with public boat launches on them, you will not see it. It cannot see you. Number 7. Now the largest catfish on the continent and the first true heavyweight on this list. The blue catfish is the biggest catfish in North America, and Louisiana rivers grow them to sizes that are hard to hold in your head. The state record is 114 pounds, taken from the Mississippi in East Carroll Parish in March of 2014 by an angler named Lawson Boyd, who was 12 years old. In 2005, Keith Day pulled a 110-pound blue from the river near St. Francisville. Between them, the Mississippi, the red, and the Atchafalaya have produced 7 of the 10 largest blue catfish ever recorded in this state. It's an apex opportunist. It eats essentially anything that fits in its mouth, and it's one of the few native fish here big enough to turn around and eat the invasive carp that flooded the system. So why does it sit at 6 and not higher? Because the blue cat is the one exception on this countdown. It's the only animal here that genuinely wants depth. It holds in the scour holes below bridges, the deep outside bends, the drowned channels 30 and 40 and 90 feet down where the current has dug the bottom out. It is the heaviest fish in the state and the least willing to come shallow, which sharpens the criterion rather than breaking it. A 100-pound fish 40 feet down is a monster. A 100-pound fish in 4 feet of water is a different category of fact entirely, and everything above number 6 is in 4 feet of water. Number 6. Halfway down, and here's the one that isn't supposed to be here at all. The bighead carp is an invasive filter feeder that was never meant to reach North America. It was imported to clean algae out of southern fish farms, escaped through flooding decades ago, and found the Mississippi Basin close enough to home to take it over, which put it into Louisiana's rivers, and from there into the backwaters and connected bayous. And it grows. Bighead carp have been recorded past 90 pounds. A fish the size of a person, assembled almost entirely out of microscopic food that native species have depended on for 100 million years. What does a 90-pound animal that doesn't hunt actually do? It hangs in the water column with its mouth open, straining plankton, quietly eating the base of the food web out from underneath the paddlefish that was number 7. No ambush, no strike, no leap, no wake, no sign of any kind. That's the threat. And it's a slow one, which is exactly why it earns 5. Every other animal on this list is at least doing something you could theoretically notice. Hunting, holding, patrolling. The bighead is a person-sized fish that can sit a few feet from your boat in shallow, opaque water, eating, breeding, displacing, and give you no indication whatsoever that it exists. Number 5 is invisible, not just to you. It's invisible to the ecosystem it's dismantling. Number 4 didn't adapt around Louisiana's muddy water. It adapted into it. The pallid sturgeon is a federally protected relic built for one thing, the turbid, silt-choked, zero-visibility main channel that most fish avoid entirely. It's a pale, armored bottom dweller that navigates by dragging sensory barbells along the riverbed, hoovering up food it never needs to see, and it reaches 5 to 6 feet. It's listed under the Endangered Species Act. It's in Louisiana's Mississippi and Atchafalaya systems, and it is functionally invisible. Why does that beat everything below it? Because of the difference between being hidden and requiring concealment. The guillemot is hidden by the murky water. The flathead is hidden by the timber. The pallid sturgeon spent millions of years evolving to be effectively blind in water nothing else wanted, and it won that niche outright. Take the mud away and the animal has no reason to exist, and the protection is absolute. Louisiana has prohibited the take of all sturgeon species since 1991, and it's illegal here to so much as possess a threatened or endangered species, meaning most people who spend their entire lives on these rivers will never legally hold one, photograph one, or have any idea one went past. Number 4 scores nearly perfectly on the criterion, and it does it strangely. The pallid sturgeon doesn't need shallow water to disappear. It doesn't need deep water either. It needs dirty water, and Louisiana is very largely made of that. Number 3 is an 8-foot armored fish that comes in off the ocean, and there may be fewer than 200 left in the state. The Gulf sturgeon reaches 8 feet and 200 pounds, wears 5 rows of hard bony plates called scutes in place of scales, and traces a lineage back roughly 200 million years. It lives in salt water and breeds in fresh, running up out of the Gulf every spring and holding through the summer. NOAA puts the entire remaining range of the subspecies as running from Lake Pontchartrain and the Pearl River system east to the Suwannee in Florida, and nowhere else on Earth. Louisiana is the western edge of all of it. So how much is left at that edge? Working from more than 15 years of data collected by Louisiana Wildlife and Fisheries and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, USGS scientist Ken Sulak estimated the post-Katrina Gulf sturgeon population of the entire Pearl River Basin at roughly 100 to 200 individuals. 100 for a whole river system. The species has been federally threatened since 1991. Louisiana banned all sturgeon take that same year, and critical habitat was designated in the Pearl in 2003. Then in August of 2011, 28 Gulf sturgeon were found dead in that river at once, a meaningful percentage of everything the state had. Number 3, and here the criterion cuts from a different direction. This isn't an animal concealed by shallow water. It's an 8-foot fish that has become rare enough that the concealment is done for it. People on the Pearl aren't failing to see the Gulf sturgeon because it's hidden. They're failing to see it because there is almost nothing left to see. Number 2 is the one that breaks people, and it comes down to a single measurement. The bull shark is one of the very few sharks on Earth that survives in fresh water. Its body chemistry lets it leave the salt of the Gulf and move into rivers and lakes that would kill nearly any other shark. Adults top 11 feet and 600 pounds. And it uses that ability constantly here. The Atchafalaya is described as a common pupping location, with bull sharks reported upriver as far as semisport, and the most inland specimen ever taken in the United States came out of the Mississippi at Alton, Illinois, in 1937, more than 1,000 river miles from the sea. But the number that should land isn't 1,000 miles, it's 2 feet. Lake Pontchartrain, 630 square miles of warm, shallow, tea-colored water with the city of New Orleans on its southern shore, is a bull shark nursery. Researchers at the University of New Orleans documented 18 of them between 2000 and 2003 off Goose Point, near the mouth of Bayou Lacombe. And when a state biologist set gill nets there for a tagging study, she pulled 3 bull sharks out of 2 feet of water in a single 1-hour set. 2 feet. You could stand in that. People do, all summer. Now the honest part, because credibility matters more than a scare. Scientists who have worked that lake for decades have collected juveniles throughout it and have never verified a mature adult, and there is no recorded shark attack on a human anywhere in the Pontchartrain Basin. These are pups and juveniles using warm, shallow water as a nursery, and the shallowness is the whole point, because it keeps the larger predators out. Number 2. Because nothing else on this list needs less water than this. An ocean predator raising its young in 24 inches of brown lake within sight of a city. And number 1 is the fish this entire state has quietly agreed not to think about. The alligator gar is the largest fish in Louisiana and one of the largest freshwater fish on the continent. A living fossil, essentially unchanged for around 100 million years, armored head to tail in interlocking diamond-shaped scales with a broad alligator-like snout and a double row of teeth. It's an apex predator that takes fish, waterfowl, and small mammals. And this state grows them. A fish out of Toledo Bend measured 7 feet 8 inches with a 48-inch girth and weighed 276 pounds. But size is not why it's number 1. Behavior is. Researchers who fitted alligator gar in the Atchafalaya Basin with radio transmitters found something that should permanently change how you look at this water. During daylight hours, the fish showed virtually no movement at all. They simply held. At night, they patrolled a home range averaging around 17 acres, and when the spring floods arrived and the basin spread out across the land, that range expanded to an average of 663 acres. Sit with what that describes. In daylight, a 300-pound armored predator is doing nothing in one spot, in the sluggish backwater pools and bayou sloughs where the water runs warm and brown and frequently waist-deep, not out in a channel, not down in a hole, in the flooded timber, motionless, in water you could wade across, and then, when the river comes up, covering 400 times that ground while everyone is asleep. That is number 1 on our criterion, cleanly and without argument. The largest fish in Louisiana hides in the least water of anything remotely its size, in the most ordinary place imaginable, and the only reason nobody notices is that the bayou is the color of coffee and holds perfectly still on top. Here's what this list is really about. And it isn't one fish. It's the Atchafalaya Basin, the largest river swamp in the United States, nearly 1 million acres of bayou, chute, cove, and flooded cypress, holding 1/3 of Louisiana's public freshwater boat launches inside it. It's the lower Mississippi, the Red, the Ouachita, Lake Verret and Lake Pallid and Lake Mauropas, Wax Lake where a 95-pound catfish came from, Goose Point, where sharks are born in 2 feet of water. The profile repeats the length of the state and it's identical every time. Shallow water. Zero visibility. Warm, slow, oxygen-poor conditions that most fish cannot survive and that these ones were specifically built for. And a set of animals, armored, air-breathing, patient, that have been solving that exact problem since before the Gulf of Mexico had the shape it has now. Other states hide their monsters with depth. Louisiana never needed to. It hides them with color, in water you can stand up in, from Toledo Bend to the Pearl. Not fear. Fear is loud, and it burns off fast. And by tomorrow you'll be back on the water anyway, because that's what this place is for. It's the arrangement underneath it that should stay with you. That the water is the same water whether or not you look at it. That the tannin gives nothing back to the eye. And that the flat brown surface of a Louisiana bayou tells you almost nothing. Nothing at all about what's holding still 18 inches beneath it, waiting out the daylight, the way it has waited since long before there was anyone here to pole across the top and decide it was empty.